Hey Avish, how are you?
Hi, Sid. Good to see you again.
Yeah, man, it's been a while. It's been pretty much interesting cricket, if I could put it that way. I mean, you have the one side where flawless batting is happening in the T20s, and you're having the complete opposite happening in the test matches with India and England. Before we get to India and England, we have to start with the T20s. New Zealand are leading 2-0 against Australia. Would you have expected this so far in the five-match series?
I kind of did, to be honest with you. I think it's actually due to the squad that Australia took to New Zealand. There's quite a few. What can I say? There's a lack of experience in that batting lineup.
Mm.
There are a few specialists there, but I guess New Zealand is such a formidable side at home. You got to play your
Mm.
strongest team, and I
True.
would think in a World Cup year. It was strange for Australia to actually not take a full strength squad to New Zealand. The likes of Smith and Warner were rested, and you kind of had a batting lineup that obviously didn't really you know uh, click in the first match,
Mm.
and you saw it happening. The bowling was fine until that onslaught by
Devon
sorry
Conway.
Conway.
Mm.
Yes. South African born Devon Conway. I mean, he took the game away from Australia because they were in a bit of trouble. They were four down for about
Yeah, yeah.
70 odd. So, yeah, I mean, the Aussies were in their ascendancy at that stage. But I think that innings just swung the momentum into, the Black Caps' favor. And then from then on, it was just one-way traffic. And the way Australia came out in that first game was, I just thought they tried to play too many shots. They try
Mm.
to hit a six or four off every ball. You can't do that. I mean, you still got to play sensibly. You still got to build an innings, and they didn't do that. Nobody actually wanted to, go the hard yards. And they were. I watched a bit of the game, and then I just went to have a shower. I came back, and then wickets were falling, and you know, wickets were tumbling
Yeah,
there. So nobody actually really wanted to stick it out there. You just needed
yeah.
one innings. You needed a 70 or 80 odd by one batsman, and all the others could just play around them, and they would have chased that total down. But they fell way short, and I think losing
Yeah.
by 54 in
50
a
runs. Yeah.
yeah, I mean
Yeah,
50 plus runs in the T20 is quite a it's quite a hammering. It's quite a hammering.
yeah. And
So
that shows
yeah,
for Australia. And I
yeah,
thought Australia would have fancied themselves in the series because the last time they went to New Zealand for a T20 series, they did really well. I think New Zealand didn't even win one match. So it shows how confident this Black Caps team is at the moment. And yeah, fine. It's true they're playing at home, home track bullies, but I think in general they are quite competitive even when they're overseas. So the World Cup's going to be in India, and I feel the grounds are pretty similar to New Zealand in terms of size. Obviously, Indian grounds are probably slightly bigger, but I feel they could be contenders for this World Cup coming up whenever it is coming this year. So I think it's pretty much. Let me just check something here. I'm trying to see here. So Australia lost by 50 plus runs. Who top scored for Australia in this first match? Oh, I
I
think
think
it
it
was
was
Mitchell Marsh.
Marsh. Yes,
Yeah, Mitchell
Mitchell
Marsh.
Marsh. But
For
I mean, he didn't
45
really.
runs. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was a case of him getting in and he got himself out at the wrong time, and then that just like ended any chance, any slim hopes that Australia had. But getting back to New Zealand, and there's one compliment I can give this side, and you've seen it not just recently, but you've seen it in years gone by. This team really punches above their weight. They really punch
Mm.
above their weight. They a tournament team. They are a tournament team without a doubt, and they cannot be taken lightly at all. Um, and this current side, what I like about them, they're a really well-oiled machine, led by a superb captain in Williamson. Just leads from the front. You see them in the limited overs. They play this attacking brand of cricket, and I think McCullum has a lot to do with it.
Mm.
When
Mm.
McCullum
He was
was,
very good.
you know, McCullum, when he was in charge of New Zealand those years ago, I think he changed the culture of cricket in the country.
Mm.
It was very aggressive, especially in ODI cricket and
Yeah.
T20s, and I think that tradition just came on. So I think McCullum has a lot to do with. He needs to be given a lot of credit as the way they've changed the way they've played. The culture of cricket in New Zealand has changed now, where they don't want to be dictated to. They want to take the game to the opponents, whereas teams of the past probably were very competitive, but they really didn't have that attacking edge to it. And I think this side has an attacking edge to it in terms of the bat and with the ball. So, yeah, I think they're a well-balanced side, and they really are one of the favorites for that tournament in October this year. That showpiece that we all looking forward to. Yeah. So I couldn't compliment this New Zealand side anymore. They're really well-structured team. As I say, very balanced, and they know exactly what their strengths are, and they make the most of it.
Okay. Getting into the second one there, I think it was a very close match. It looked like Australia could have snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, because when you look at the score of 219, I thought it was a pretty much done deal. But the way Australia really gave it in, it was really admirable, because it would have been interesting had they won this match. I think it would have probably deflated the Kiwis, because the Kiwis are so used to winning because it's home advantage. But now that New Zealand's 2-0, I think I wouldn't be surprised if the score is either 5-0, 4-1. And Martin Gupta was awesome. The way he was spanking the ball out of the ground. And yeah, I felt sorry for the bowlers. That was one flat pitch.
What a fantastic game of cricket that was. Wow. I mean, that was an absolute thriller. You're talking about the Aussies. I think they were chasing 219, and they were 6 down for. Yeah, they were chasing 220, and they were 6 down for nothing at that stage, 76. And then comes in Stoinis, who always had this ability as a player, and he plays one explosive knock. And, ably supported by Daniel Sams. I mean, what an explosive cameo that was, 46 of 15 deliveries. And I think there was majority sixes in that entire partnership. And, some clean hits. Clean hits out of the ground there. It was absolutely amazing. And yeah, I mean, they until the last over that was bowled by Bolt, they were well and truly in this contest, big time. And I think that wicket of Stoinis at the end just obviously dented the momentum. But wow,
9 runs.
That was.
Yeah, if you had done that,
absolutely. I mean, teams back themselves. I think 9 of 3, 9 of 4. I mean, you wouldn't. I mean, who wouldn't want to back themselves in that? I think it was 9 of. I think it was 9 of 2, but then he got out of the second last ball, and then it was pretty much done deal from there. I think they needed 15 of the last over, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 15?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
9 of 2 they needed, and then
you had 2 set batsmen there, well within that the range of getting to that total. But yeah, fantastic fight back. But I think the bowling let Australia down in this game as well.
Terrible.
But I think it's a bit harsh. Those boundaries were so short, and it was actually a graveyard for the bowlers, as you said.
Yeah.
So, fantastic game of cricket. I don't think it's going to be a whitewash. I think this one could be quite close. I think it could end 3-2, probably in the Black Caps' favor. But yeah, okay. I see it being a close finish to this series, because I think Australia have probably built some batting momentum now, but I think they just got to work out their dead bowling, because their dead bowling went for plenty in these last 2 games. So they just got to work that out, because I mean, if your dead bowling is set up to scratch, I mean, you can go for plenty in T20 cricket. So yeah, they just got to work on that. If they can, I like to see them bat first.
They won the toss and they put them in. I was so shocked, man. I was so shocked when they did that.
Absolutely. Bat first, Back your
Yeah.
batters and try and get a score of over 200. And let's see how New Zealand chases one down. Because, yeah, I mean, there's going to be pressure, no doubt about it. T20, the shortest format of the game, it's the most amount of pressure you can get. Unbelievable.
No, but like, what were your thoughts that New Zealand put them into bat? I always no, sorry, not New Zealand, Australia put them into bat. I was thought Australia should have batted first on that pitch. Fine, I admit maybe Australia was scared of batting first because they thought they might have underscored and the Blackers could have chased it. But there's no harm giving yourself a chance to defend a score because in the first match they tried to chase and they were delightfully pathetic. And this fine, they did a much better job chasing, but fine, they lost. But maybe they should have batted first in the second match, and then who knows? At least you're giving yourself a chance. I thought they gave away the advantage even before the match even started by putting New Zealand to bat. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I think it's probably a lack of confidence in your batting order as such. I would put it down to that because, you got an X-factor player there in Maxwell, but, he's a sort of player, he's a give and take player, something like Miller, that,
Mm-hmm.
he's a player you can't drop because there's going to be
Yeah.
one exciting whirlwind knock that's going to come out and, you're going to
Mm.
regret dropping him as a player. So he's got that X factor as a player, but he hasn't really performed in these last two games. So, there's
Yeah.
there's three matches left. So, yeah, I like to see them be positive. And T20, you got to be positive, as a team.
Definitely.
You win the toss, you bat first. You get the runs on the board, and then you let the opponents come and score those runs down. And I think if you have spinners in the side that obviously Australia do have in terms of Zampa, and I think Schwepson is also in the squad. I'd like to see him
Mm.
have a game as well. And the spinners can actually tie down an end. And we've seen in T20 cricket they take the most amount of wickets. There's like
Mm.
there's like what can I say? There's sort of like a pandemic that we have in the world at the moment in terms of batsmen not being able to play spin bowling, and we're going to come to that in the next discussion we're having now with
Mm.
India and Australia. Sorry, India and England, and that really sums it up in this conversation when it comes to that pandemic of batsmen in the world not being able to play spin, and we've seen it in this Test match. Wow, I mean,
Yeah.
uh,
Nice way of you trying to get into the next segment of our chat. And now that let's start with that now. The third test that finishes in 2 days,
five
and they won by
five sessions,
sorry?
five
Yeah.
sessions. This game just sessions to complete. So I haven't seen a Test match in my time of watching Test ended in such short notice. Uh,
When Andrew Caddick blew them away. Yeah, it's a bit of a bizarre situation. And there's been a lot of talk regarding pitches, especially after Chennai and this one. But call me crazy, but I thought the Chennai pitch was probably better in the sense that at least there were much more runs, man. And fine, there was a radical turn, but at least, runs are being scored here. It was like a funeral. Hardly any runs, but there's plenty of wickets. Entertaining, but there's been a lot of discussion saying this is not good for Test cricket and all that. But if you compare Chennai and this pitch, which one would you say was better out of the two? Because at least in Chennai there were runs being scored. Fine, England were pathetic, but they don't think they use the right approach of playing this better than Chennai. So, what were your thoughts so far?
before we go to Chennai, I just want to sum up this match,
Sure,
and
yeah.
I think this match can be summed up by two ordinary batting displays in both innings by this English side. You know,
Hmm.
I just think they showed absolutely no sort of rhythm to the innings.
Hmm.
There was no sort of rhythm, but I just want to say something. In that first innings that they elected to bat first, which I thought was quite brave as well,
Okay.
on a turning track. This pitch was by no means unplayable. It was
Yeah.
difficult. We have
Yeah.
to admit that because I think the home team
Yeah.
also struggled. It was a poor game
Definitely.
for batsmen as a whole. but it was not unplayable. And Zach Crowley showed in that first inning that you can score runs, and he scored a fluent 50. And then that they just crumbled there after his wicket, and the same can be said with Rohit as well in the Indian innings. He scored that 60 odd, and then when he went out, and you can see the pattern here. There were two set batsmen that scored quite well in this game. When they both went out, there was a collapse, of enormous proportions on both sides of the fence. But I think it can all be summed up by that second innings by England. I mean, 81, mediocre. We can talk about the pitch, but there were a lot of straight balls that the batsmen were missing there. So it all goes down to application here, big time. England really got to go back and they really got to rethink their strategy on how to play spin on these wickets, because I think they've been completely bamboozled here. I'm not sure if it's a lack of confidence. It probably could be, but in Test cricket, you can have a poor first innings, but you can always come back in that second innings. But I don't think England learned anything in that first innings, the way they played spin. Nothing was learned in that second innings, and I think they performed much more poorly in that second innings. Not by the scoreline, but I think by the mode of dismissals, as such. There were too many batsmen. I mean, I looked at those dismissals. I mean, they weren't tight enough. I mean, losing 2 wickets in the space of the first 3 balls of the innings. I mean, dude, the first 3 balls of the innings. I mean, that's when you're supposed to be your most watchful.
Yeah,
there were so many balls that were going through the defenses because there wasn't enough tightness, in terms of the technique. If I look at the Crawley dismissal, I look at Bairstow looked all at sea in this match completely. I mean, he was bamboozled in both innings by, I think, Patel, who bowled quite beautifully on that pitch, and including a guy like Root. I mean, which we would be deemed as a part-time spinner. I mean, he bowled fabulous. I mean, if you just look at it, as I'm trying to analyze it, there were so many batsmen in both batting lineups that were missing straight deliveries, either getting LBW or getting balls. So it was really a bizarre game for batting as such. I mean, I know India would probably go back and they would rethink their strategy and come back much stronger. But this England side at the moment, I think ever since we spoke about it when they changed the entire lineup that won the first test so convincingly, getting rid of a guy like Butler down the order, and I think they missed him quite considerably in this innings in both these test matches that they lost so heavily, because he's an X-factor player, and he's a guy that can change the momentum of the innings, because he's got that counter-attacking sort of way. I think Butler's way of getting out of trouble, and I think that the only way to get out of trouble in this test match was by playing shots and calculated aggression, which you get from Butler. So I think letting Butler go home was extremely puzzling for England by England in this series, and I think this is ultimately going to cost them the series as well.
Don't you? I just think it's also coming down to lack of technique due to all the T20 games that are, happening around the world, and also there's not enough spunk, not enough grit, and also commentators have said that the Indian players don't play enough domestic cricket because they're just touring all over the world. But maybe what they could do is that when India's touring to countries such as, and no disrespect to countries like Zimbabwe and Scotland and all these teams, but maybe they should really make their top players play domestic cricket so that they can get back to playing proper spin again, man. Because I don't think these pitches are really that bad. I mean, fine, they are challenging, as you said, but I don't think these scores should have happened at the third test. It's not only insulting for the crowd, but also for the groundsperson. I mean, I'm sure he did the best he could, but this also reminds me of a time when South Africa came to India. I think they beat them in the one-day series, and I think because either the ego got crushed or they're under pressure. I think England did the same to India, and then they've gotten the brunt of it. So one thing I've learned is that maybe don't beat India in the first test, because you'll get some nice pitches to bat on. Like I remember in 2016, the pitches were a lot than the pitches have pitched out now. So far, who knows? Maybe the final test will have a much better pitch.
Yeah, man. And, I remember that 2015 series quite vividly. And, prior to that, SA had quite a good record in India. I think they were unbeaten in India for let's go back to 2004. I think they were unbeaten in India for close to 11 years in the subcontinent as well. Yeah, and I think that was a formidable lineup, a formidable test team at that stage in world cricket, the Proteas. Because, I mean, it's funny that the Test Championship wasn't around when the Proteas were on top of their game. It's quite unfortunate. It would have been quite exciting for the Test Championship at that stage. I'm not sure why ICC delayed it so long as such. But I just want to take you back a little bit longer. 15, 20 years ago, when T20 cricket didn't exist, and you had Test matches. And let's face it, Indian pitches were always turners to the days of Kumble and Harbhajan. They were always difficult pitches to negotiate, but batsmen always put in the hard yards, they put in the hard yards. And I don't see the hard yards at the moment in this generation of batsmen, There's no application. And I'm just saying, going back to 15, 20 years of Test cricket, there was good, hard Test cricket that you got in those days, where teams batted. I think it was a norm in those days to bat out 90 overs, and then nowadays you're not even seeing teams surviving 50 overs, which is absolutely insane in Test cricket when you've got so much of time. I mean, dude, you've got, 360? You've got about 540 overs, I think, if you have to. Okay, sorry, 450 overs. You've got 450 overs. You've got 450 overs to negotiate a Test match, and to see batsmen throwing it away, it's unbelievable as such, And Indian pitches, they've been turners and probably prodigiously turned in the last couple of years, but I think techniques have obviously dropped down big time. And I just want to make a reference to the Sena countries as well. I mean, South Africa, England, New Zealand, Australia. There seems to be a lack of application at times when, when approaching spin bowling, especially when teams like India, majority of the innings that bowlers, that spin bowlers are going to be, in use, and that's when the problems start, because. I guess with spin bowling, spinners always keep you in the game, no matter what. With regards to fast bowling, I think it's a little bit easier. Once the ball loses its shine and the bowlers get a bit tired, they try too many things, and then the ball doesn't really do much after a while. But with spinners, I think you'll agree with me. They always keep you in the game. I mean, throughout the Test match, the spinners will always keep you in the game, and this is exactly what happened in this Test match as well. The spinners were never out of the game, at all. They were always in the England batsmen's faces. They were always putting them under pressure, and they cracked. They cracked with that sort of pressure that was dealt to them. So England have really got to pull their socks up. I mean, we can criticize the pitch as much as we want. We can criticize the groundsman, but it all goes down back to fundamental batting errors that they're making. And if you're talking about spin, and 21 of those 30 wickets that actually fell in this Test match were by straight delivery. So it goes down to you not being able to know where your off stump is, I would say. And there's too much of a gap between bat and pad, which was exposed here in this game, especially by players like Bairstow and Crawley. And to be honest with you, a guy like Bairstow, I mean, I kind of like Bairstow in the shorter format of the game, because he's quite exciting. But I'm not sure if this guy has a technique for Test cricket, honestly speaking, because he's been in and out of this lineup and he's failed quite a few times in Sri Lanka as well. I think he had a run there as well, and he failed there as well. So I don't know what's your opinion on Bairstow, but I don't think this guy has a technique that's cut out for Test cricket at the moment, because he hasn't been a guy that's cemented his squad, has cemented his place in the Test team. He's been in and out completely. So yeah, that's an interesting one. But I personally think, Butler should be the number 7 no matter what in this lineup. You can obviously tinkle with the top order. Crawley, he had one bad innings and he had one good innings, so I think it'd be unfair to drop him. He's done a lot more than what Burns has done in the first 2 tests. So I just feel a guy like Butler not being in the side just disrupts the entire balance of the side. I don't know if you agree with me.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one because obviously these 2 surfaces have been so challenging that the batsmen haven't really done well. I think even fine, India did quite well in the second test, but in this test match they were pretty dreadful. So it's a difficult one to analyze it. I think we'll have to probably give the batsmen a bit of some leeway until they go back to England and see how Bairstow does. And just to wrap up this third test, Akshar Patel has been on a roll, man. Second test and now third test, he's got man of the match. So I know it's early days, but do you think Akshar Patel could replicate this overseas?
Geez, it's a tough one, eh? But look at it. The majority of the wickets that he did take was through the straight ball, the arm ball. So
yeah,
this guy is someone to watch, And I think what he has in his favor as a bowler, and not a lot of batsmen have faced him, in world cricket. So there's an element of mystery about him. So I think that would actually help him in his favor. But the jury's still out in terms of how he perform overseas. But he's giving the Indian selectors quite a headache here, and a good headache, because Jadeja now, how do you drop a guy like Akshar that's taken, 20 wickets? It's almost 20 wickets in 2 test matches. Absolutely insane. That's like Shane Warne and Murali sort of standards, man. Dude, this is amazing. It's an amazing breakthrough for him. So he's going to be a play that's going to be hard to drop. It's going to be difficult to take the ball off him. So yeah, that's a good headache for the Indian selectors to have at the moment. But I just hope this final test that sense prevails here, and common sense prevails here big time, and batsmen go back to playing old-fashioned Test cricket where you watch the ball, you're very vigilant, and you try and build an innings, because that's what you want. Test cricket is not boring by any means. Even if you bat at 2.5 and over, it's still fascinating to watch. Test cricket is still fascinating to watch, because there's always going to be an opportunity where the opposition are going to get themselves back in the game. So there's the beauty of Test cricket. There's ebbs and flows, and a lot of viewers that don't watch a lot of Test cricket really don't understand that. There's a lot of ebbs and flows in Test cricket, and we saw it in that series down under between Australia and India, where the pendulum just swung so many times. It was one of the best Test series that you'll ever watch, and I would say this series also has the makings of it. If this Test match, this hot Test, goes by, expectation, as such that it's going to be a Test match where England are actually going to, fight tooth and nail to survive. So, that's what we want. We want an improved performance by the opposition as well. So, that make India obviously make their task a little bit harder. As such, make it more challenging, make them work for their wickets. Where I think in this as they didn't really have to work that much for their wickets, because there were so many poor dismissals there, so many batsmen missing straight ones. So yeah, let's hope for a cracker in that fourth test.
Yeah, actually, getting to the fourth test, I know that Bumrah won't be playing for personal reasons. So who do you think is going to replace him? And probably, I'm just thinking, no, actually, think it's probably between Siraj and Umesh. Who do you think is going to replace him?
I think Siddharth has become the new Umesh in the side at the moment. He's become the third seamer, so it's going to be difficult to take the ball off him. So, yeah, I think he deserves a run. So, I'd be surprised if they played Umesh. I'd see Siddharth in the side in place of Bumrah. And, no other changes for India there. But I think England have all to do in this test match. I don't know if it's a good thing to change combinations going into the fourth test, because, as you said, it's been a nightmare game for batsmen. So you probably have to give the batsman one more go and see how it goes. So it's anyone's guesses here. But I think, in actual fact, they should have played two spinners on this wicket. It didn't really matter much in the end because Root bowled so well. But I think a guy like Dom Bess should come into this test match, no doubt. And I don't think there's any need to play three seamers. To be honest with you, you haven't seen much purchase for the seamers in this series as a whole. So, barring Anderson's beautiful spell in that second innings of the first test where that reverse swing came into effect, and he bowled so beautifully in that second innings. But apart from them, it's been spinners' paradises. So I would think England, the smartest choice would be to drop probably Broad for that fourth test and play Bess. So yeah, that should be the change. I think it will be a bit unhealthy now to drop any batsman, as you say. Give the batsman one more go. But definitely, sure, they really got to go back and have a look at those techniques, because there really needs to be a lot of questioning in terms of those techniques, because there's no sort of rhythm. They've completely lost their rhythm. This England side after that first test, and I didn't actually see this coming. To be honest with you, I'm very surprised to see this. To see this England side implode. It's one thing losing. I mean, you can lose. You can lose with grace. I mean, not getting to 400. Not getting over 200 in these last four innings, which it's really shocking. I mean, we thought the Proteas performed badly in Pakistan, but I mean, this takes it to another level, wouldn't you say?
Okay, how do I say this? Because I'm not trying to. Okay, I feel the pitches in Pakistan were probably much better compared to the pitches dished out by India, and it's kind of strange I should be saying that because I'm defending Pakistan over India, but I feel the pitches there were a lot better. At least there were runs being scored there, much more runs, and also you also had to work a little bit.
Absolutely.
At least you got to work a little bit harder for your wickets. Yeah, it feels like Christmas is on here, especially if you're a good enough spin ball. Imagine if Root can pick up 5 wickets, then that's pretty. I think Michael Vaughan said it all. Even though I'm not a fan of Michael Vaughan, I feel that he's been a bit too mopey about the pitches. But fine, he probably does have a point. I mean, it hasn't really been fair for both sides. Imagine if you have a side like India not doing well on it, then there are hectic problems. So I think, to me, the match is going to be an Ahmedabad again. So do you think they're going to improve on this whole pitch story, or do you think it's going to be another spiteful pitch for the batsmen?
I think the talk of the pitch has to go out of the window now. Forget about the pitch. You got to focus on techniques now. You got to try as a batsman to occupy the crease and do the hard yards. I mean, do what you're getting paid for to do, man. Come on, just bat. It doesn't matter if you make 60 of 250 balls. Nobody's going to grudge you. Nobody's going to curse you. I mean, that is proper test match batting. That is proper test match batting. Because what you're doing when you're scoring 60 of 250 deliveries is you wearing the opposition bowlers down. Because I don't think England did that at all. They didn't wear the Indian spinners down. They just let them bowl to them, and get their wickets. As you said, Christmas came early. So I think you got to wear the opposition down. I think you just got to take a leaf out of how, in terms of England, I mean, how England, okay, I mean, I know the Proteas didn't have a good tour in Pakistan, but I was very impressed with the way Markram batted, in that series. And that second innings knock in the first test where he scored like 74 of 240 plus balls. I think it was a fantastic example of how you should bat in Test match cricket. And even that 100 that he scored in that second innings as well, you be positive, but you also put a price on your wicket as well. So, yeah, I think old-fashioned Test match cricket has got to prevail here. Big time, Sid, or we're going to have another Test match is going to end in 2 days. In the spot test.
So on a final note, before we wrap this up, you're expecting another win for India, obviously, and in what number of days? It's become so bad. I'm just saying India's gonna win. It's all gonna be like prediction number of days. You think India's gonna wrap this up again in 2 days, or it's gonna at least be longer?
Look, I think India is going to win the series. No doubt about it, and they're going to go to the Test Championship final. It's all a case of, how many days here now. I think England have, really imploded in the series. And it's all down to change of personnel, I think. Really messed it up in that first innings. As I said, I'll go back to Butler. Getting rid of Butler, sending him home was the worst call they could have ever made. And that's really going to cost them dearly in the series. So, India are heavy favorites for that fourth test, man. I mean, England.
How many days do you think India will win
England are really looking clueless here. I think India will win, but I don't think it's going to be by 2 days. Probably by day 3 or day 4. I think it would be an achievement by England. It would be really an achievement by England to take this to the 5th day. It would really, really be an achievement by England to take this test match to the 5th day on the 4th test.
I'm willing to go further. If they make it into 4 days, I think that would be a big achievement for them. Let alone 5 days. I think 4 days would be an achievement at this moment in time.
Absolutely. And I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned by England in this series. And they got to take this back home because, they've got to improve the way they play spin, and that goes for a lot of countries that grow up on bouncy tracks. I guess application is very important as such, and India have shown in overseas tours as well where they were susceptible to bouncy tracks back in the day, and they used to fall victim to that. But I think it's pointless complaining about pitches because I think subcontinent teams, when they come to places like Australia and SA, they don't really complain about the pitch. They just go about their business. So I think it's time for this English side to stop complaining about the pitches and get on to the business of playing Test cricket.
I don't think it's been the English team. It's been more like their fans and outsiders like Michael Vaughan and other people. Then there's been Manasseh saying, Rob Key, all these sorts of play people are, saying their piece. And even if they may be right, it's no use going on about it because India is not going to stop doing it. I think whenever they pushed into a corner, they do these radical pitches. Though it's something we got to suck up.
But what's actually missing from this England side more than anything else is resilience. Because England were noted for being a very resilient side, back in the day. You talk about those great names, those great players like Afton and a guy like Cook. He was best players with spin, and he was the last captain to actually win a Test series in India, which goes to show how difficult it is to win in India. If you do win in India, I think you can consider yourself the best team in the world, but by virtue of winning a series in India. And I know there were a lot of good sides that came to India. The Protea sides of 2008, 2010 was superb. The likes of Amla, I think he had a superb record in India. AB as well had a superb record in India. So these were quality players. But I think the one thing that you showed about a guy like Strauss as well, who was also a very resilient player. Even KP Peterson, it just goes to show this current generation, they've gotten too much into this attacking approach where they want to play too many shots. They've just forgotten the art of building innings, And, AB, obviously, he was one of the best ODI players ever. that the world has ever seen, limited overs players. But I think he could adapt his game as well to Test match cricket. And the beauty of a guy like de Villiers, he could play all three formats, and he could play all three formats well. So I don't think you're getting a lot of batsmen in the world at the moment that can play all three formats well. You've got specialists. I mean, guys like Roy, guys like Besto that are actually bullies in ODI cricket that want to go out and hit the ball, to all parts of the ground. But when you put them in a test team, they found one team, because I don't think they have that patience that's required in Test cricket to play long innings. So yeah, I think the patience has actually died off in Test cricket by batsmen at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's more about. I think it's because of T20s, people are kind of become so money hungry. They just feel that they can just do these sort of formats, and yeah, it happens. I mean, it's just become a commercial situation. So we can only hope that in the future, the next generation really willing to put in the hard yards for Test cricket, and let's hope that the fourth Test can at least go beyond, at this rate, 2 to 3 days and be competitive. But though I am hoping India will win, at least we'll have an Asian side in the Test Championship. We can't have like now two Western teams, Australia and New Zealand, and Australia didn't even come to us, so they don't deserve to qualify. That would be fluke. So
I don't think it's fair for Australia to actually qualify for this tournament by virtue of the default, because they didn't honor the tour, and I think there's a lot of sour between animosities, the Cricket South Africa and Cricket Australia. Because I mean, look, dude. I mean, they were going to be given the best security possible, and they refused, and I think that is very unsporting of them as well, And we all know how important the series was for both teams, So I think they show the lack of faith in Cricket South Africa by not honoring the tour, and their lack of importance that they show towards the game of Test cricket, which I think Test cricket is the ultimate for any cricketer. Any cricketer wants to play Test for his country. I mean, that's an absolute dream to play those whites. I mean, to don those whites for his country. So I think coaches have got to really stick this into batsmen's mindsets these days, that T20 cricket is fun. ODI cricket is fun, but your ultimate goal is to be playing Test cricket for your country. And I think batsmen have got to aspire to that. Players have got to aspire to be playing Test cricket. Be it a bowler or a batsman, you have got to aspire to play Test cricket, because, as you say, if we're going to have these 2-day Test matches, Test cricket is going to run the risk of not being able to survive, and that's what we want. We want to see 4-day, 5-day Test matches. We want to see Test matches that go into the final, the last session that we saw in the thriller, the Gabba, in January. That's what we want to see in Test cricket. That's what brings the crowds to Test cricket. So that's going to be very, very important going forward.
Yeah, man. So I think we just got to now look forward to this final Test. It should be, as usual, entertaining. And on that note, thanks for your time.
Thanks. Talk to you soon. Cheers.